The second I got out of my car, just agents pop out and they're walking up to me, badges. It dawns on me in that moment, this is worse than anything I could be thinking of because he ran.
What would you do if the FBI called you while you were at work and told you to come home immediately because they were in your house with your 2-year-old daughter where you left her and her dad just a few hours before? It sounds like the beginning of a really bad dream, but for Jordan, it was a reality.
So on August 21st, he was arrested by the FBI for CSAM and the production, manufacture, and distribution of CSAM of some of our own daughter and other children as well. You have to grieve the loss of this person and this person that you thought that they were and this relationship. So I think that in the beginning, I was so angry and so just on an adrenaline rush of it all that I didn't really start to grieve it. I think now I've really moved into that stage of grieving the relationship and grieving the person I thought he was. So I would say even now, I mean, there's still anger, but I would say a lot of it is sadness.
I hope people do understand that and give you some empathy and some compassion when it comes to that grieving process.
They don't.
Listen, girl, a couple of days ago, I was watching some of your videos on TikTok.
Yep.
I had to leave the app for a little while because it was pissing me off.
They're ruthless in there.
That was one of the things I was going to ask you at some point. It seems like from what I could tell, you took to TikTok to share your story and kind of use that platform as a, for lack of a better term, like a cry for help emotionally, financially, which takes a lot of courage to do anyway. Like, not even considering the circumstances that you're in or just the, a mother's worst nightmare, and then ask for help in that way from strangers, knowing how the internet reacts. I saw the comments myself from your early videos all the way till now, but I wanted to ask you specifically, what has the response been from the online community towards your situation?
While there's been a ton of hate comments and negativity, there's also been so much an outpouring of love and support. And I've really built a community on TikTok. Obviously, there's going to be people who are going to keep coming in and criticizing my reactions, the things I say, my feelings. They're going to say things like, okay, but you're sharing her story, which is so far from the truth. I think one of the things I've really struggled with people receiving is there's two stories here, right? There's her story, which I will not speak on. I'm never gonna share her information or identity. That is hers, and she gets to do what she wants to do and have her feelings about it. She gets to do that when she's older, right? But I also have a story here. I also have a story, and that is being the mom of a CSAM victim survivor. As I'm doing it, I'm posting these TikToks. As I'm finding out, okay, this is a dead end, there's no resource for me here, I'm updating this community, and that community kept building, which of course then brought more people who just insist that I'm exploiting my daughter just like her father was. And I think that's absolutely insane. When can we get to a space where I can share my story and other survivors or other people are not going to come on and tell me that I'm doing it wrong? And most of these comments are from women, mothers at that, which is so sad. So the response has been mixed. Mostly, I would even say it's been good. But sometimes I'll wake up and I'll have 30 new hate comments.
As if you're not going through enough. Right. I've never been able to wrap my brain around what possesses people to go online and comment on someone's personal experience and their situation with their own, I guess, opinion, which everyone's entitled to their opinion. But what you're not going to do is invalidate someone's own experience and how they choose to share their story. And to your point, I've not seen a single video of yours share your daughter's name, your location, any identifying information about her. You've handled this the best any parent could possibly handle something of this magnitude. I think you've done a fantastic job sharing your story.
I can only speak from my point of view. Some days she's going to speak from hers, right? Some days she's going to speak from hers, and that's her story. but right now I can only speak for mine.
Well, fuck the haters.
They're so awful. They're so mean. Go to a shelter. Like, you think that that's the answer? Like, she's victimized by her father, and then she doesn't understand that, so all of a sudden her dad's out of the picture. And then she should also lose everything that gives her safety and stability. We don't have family around here.
Right.
Like, it's just me and her. And so, I mean, did I realize that that was going to have to be like an option? Sure, but I'm going to avoid it at all costs. At all costs, which meant going on the internet and receiving the feedback I did. I was really blessed along the way, though. The TikTok advocate, Katie, her and I grew up together.
Oh, I didn't know that you grew up together. I knew that you were friends.
Yeah, no, we grew up together. And so we hadn't talked in like forever. And she came on one of my videos and was like, DM me, let's talk. And she really helped elevate my story in the beginning. And she and her community really got me the support, and that immediate like financial support. That was all her. I would not be sitting anywhere without Katie. And that's just the truth. I think after her, you know, a couple other creators that were super important in like me surviving this whole thing. One of them was JD Delay. I don't know if you know him. He's a YouTuber.
Listen, I'm old.
No,
okay?
he's
I'm a little
older. Not old. He's gonna get better. You even say that, but no, he's older. And then Danish for sure, and his community, they were like amazing.
They've come through.
They really came through, and I'm so grateful for that.
That's phenomenal. It's such a crazy feeling when complete strangers, you know, step up when your own family isn't even.
Oh my God.
Stepping up in that way or there for you that way. It's such a foreign feeling, but I'm really happy that you found some of that, and hopefully we can continue that momentum of support and make you guys feel even more secure and safe, because she deserves that stability and safety, but so do you, and you're dealing with so much right now, and it shouldn't be 100% alone. It's going to feel lonely anyway. Like, how can the rest of us make it feel less lonely for you and less isolated?
It does. It's extremely isolating. I have my little sister that I talk to here and there, like my youngest sister, but she's 23. She has her own life and she's young, you know? What's she going to do? But as for the rest of my family, it's just kind of unforgivable at this point that they haven't taken any steps to fix anything. And this issue is so much deeper than just, you know, this one incident. You know, this has been going on for years and years and years. I just grew up in a very toxic and dysfunctional family. You know, both my parents, my mom especially. My mom's the abusive one, but my dad was complicit in that, which, I mean, makes him just as bad. So, I mean, it's always been hard with my family, but you would think that in a time like this, where there's an innocent little girl who is going through something this serious, you would think they would just drop it and just be like, because that's what I would do, you know? They of course, if any one of my siblings called me, it was like, hey, I'm coming because that's you,
period.
You're my sister, and that's your kid, that's my niece, it's my nephew, you know? And I don't know. It's sad.
That resonates because my parents are the exact same way. It's like my mom's the abuser, my dad's the complicit one, and then has just been in denial or refuses to admit the severity of what took place. So I totally get where you're coming from with that. You're like, out of all of the times when a daughter needs a mother, a daughter needs their dad, or just a parental figure, or just some sort of normalcy and protection, even as adults, we still crave that. We still want to feel that from our parents. but you've not had it for a while, and then you're certainly not getting it now, and then your daughter also, and you don't have the support from her paternal grandparents side of the family. I know there's been some.
Yeah.
That's a whole thing.
That is the whole thing.
Please.
I'm going to kind of give you the timeline of what happened. This happens that day, August 21st. Get a call from an agent, you know, hey, I'm at your house with a search warrant. You got to come home. I remember I was in my client's house. I'm standing in their kitchen and I'm like, I gotta go. And like, just like, I'm like, I have to go right now. And just like pack up and just bolt. They didn't know who was on the other side of the phone, but clearly it was a horrible phone call. I remember I'm driving home. I'm only like 10, 15 minutes away. And the whole time I'm thinking like, what is going on? What's happening? Like, is my daughter okay? Is Ty okay? And I'm worrying the whole entire time I'm getting there. And then when I'm getting to the gates, so my apartment complex, it's gated, but like the gates are always broken. But like it's gated.
They always are.
Gated.
Yeah.
And there's cops. Like the local police department is all outside my gate. And I'm like, oh my God, what is happening here? So I live right across the street from like a shopping center. They're blocking off, there's cop cars blocking off the shopping center that's directly across the street. There's cop cars like all around the entrance of my apartment complex. So I'm at this point, I like cannot breathe because I did not even anticipate this. You know, I didn't anticipate all of the commotion.
How could you?
And so I got to my house. The second I got out of my car, there was a car parked like 2 spots away from me and just agents pop out of it, right? They're like, and they're walking up to me, badges, and I'm like, oh my, like, I'm not even all the way out. My car door is not even shut yet. And these people are like talking to me.
Oh, I'm stressed.
Yeah. And so they tell me, they're like, shut your door. And I'm like, what? And so I shut my door and they're like, lock it. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, so I lock it and I'm like, what is going on? They're like, well, Ty ran. I'm like, okay. And so then the panic attacks start ensuing. I'm like, what? Because it dawns on me in that moment, this is really bad because he ran. You know, this is worse than anything I could be thinking of because he ran. They're telling me my daughter's okay. They're trying to calm me down. I have a panic disorder. It's not going to work. You have to tell me what's going on and then we'll see if I'll calm down. They brought me inside and I saw the agent that I spoke to on the phone. He had a unique voice. I knew it was him. And he's like, do you want to sit down? Everything's okay. And I did. I walked in, my daughter's sitting at the kitchen table with them, just like, I don't know, playing with their badges, like, or whatever,
chilling.
You know, she's fine. And I see that.
Right.
And so at that moment, there's relief in some sense, but also not really any because I'm still full panicking at the situation. Why is this happening? And there are agents like all over my house. There was probably 3 per room, and we're talking like the dining room, kitchen, and living room that are all connected. Still 3 each.
Were they like searching everything?
Were
they searching and taking things?
Yeah, they were searching everything. They were looking. They already had a lot of electronics out. They're going through our stuff. The house is. They didn't tear it up like you would see in a movie. It wasn't like that, but you can tell things were moved. But they weren't like messy about like throwing things and paper everywhere. I didn't walk into a total disaster, but it was a lot. So I'll see this agent and he's trying to calm. He's like, do you want to sit? I think you need water. You know, and I'm like, I don't know what I need. I need to know what's going on. I'm like walking around. They're like, sit down. They're like, drink water. And I'm like, tell me what's going on. What's wrong? And they keep saying they're waiting. They're going to wait for someone to come explain to me because they were looking for him at this point. He had ran. So they're looking for him. And so I guess the lead on his case, right? I guess the lead on his case, they were wanting her to like explain everything to me because she had all of the, you know, but she was out.
Makes sense.
Trying to look for him, you know, trying to catch him. So after a period of time, they finally were just like, okay, we're just gonna, here's what happened. So Ty's being arrested for, well, they said child porn. But again, want to stress porn implies consent. So we don't call it that.
Correct.
So they didn't tell me anything except for that. And I'm like, they said those 2 words, and my mind, what was left of it, because it was already like just exploded. And like, I think I can't even remember exactly what I did. I know I was crying. I'm a nervous laugher, so I might have like laughed a little bit. Just remember being all over the place and like panicking and being in just utter disbelief. And as I'm telling you this, I'm like looking around the room because I kind of like remember where I was at when certain things happened. Because I obviously have PTSD from this. Eventually they tell me, okay, we caught him, you know, we're gonna take him to jail, he'll be booked later, all of the details of what, you know, was gonna happen next. And they basically just asked me, like, do you have anyone that can come, like, be with you? Because you really shouldn't be alone. And I didn't, you know? So the one person I thought to call was my boss. Because me and my boss had worked together at a previous company before the current company that we work together at. She took a promotion. So she's like, she wasn't even my direct boss. She's like my regional coordinator. And so I called her, and she called my direct boss and was like, you need to go to Jordan's right now. She needs help. Like, you gotta go.
Oh, wow.
And I'm very, very grateful to both of them. So my direct boss showed up, and she was like, just get your things. You're gonna come stay at my place, you know, for a couple days. And I'm like, okay. So pack up the baby, pack up all our stuff, go stay at her place. So I'm gone for, I want to say it was a little under a week after this happened. But I'm at my boss's house. While I'm on the way there, I take out my phone and I call his dad. Okay. I called him. These people love a phone call. Okay. They hate texting. This is important. They hate texting, okay? Call him.
Okay.
No answer. None. And I'm like, okay. So I text him. I'm like, hey, your boy was like arrested by the FBI. So I really need you to call me back. They didn't. They didn't call me.
What?
And I think it was a little bit later that they texted me and were like, what happened? And so I think I sent them I think I tried to call them again. I think I left his dad a voicemail, and they just wouldn't answer. But then they would like respond to my text after a while. And so I'm starting to get irritated right there because I know how much these people prefer phone calls. I mean, they have been just ridiculous about how we have to talk on the phone. We can't text about anything. But now all of a sudden, you know, we can't talk on the phone. So right off the bat, I'm irritated. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, this is an emergency, and this is no time for you to just be like acting nonchalant about this or like calm. And so I remember them saying something along the lines of like, hey, we're just finding out about this. We're going to look into it, you know, and we'll talk to you. And I'm like, okay, fine, you know, sure. You don't answer my calls. You're sending me these texts. You're going to look into it. Sure. Okay. So I don't hear from them. I get to my boss's house. We're settled in. And I'm checking the jail website because I don't know anything at this point. They told me those 2 words. He's arrested for that, but they didn't tell me anything else.
Really?
No. And so I'm waiting for him to be booked.
But you're supposed to calm down.
Yeah, I'm supposed to calm down, even though I have no clue what's going on.
Right.
So it's like midnight and they're not updating the site. So I'm like, oh my God, like I'm so tired. I'll check it in the morning. So I wake up at like 6 a.m. and I wake up heart pounding, like sweating. And it's been like that every day since this happened. That's how I wake up at this point. And I pull up the jail website and he's got all of these charges, like 1st, 2nd, 3rd degree child exploitation, indecent liberties, assault of a police officer. Assault of a police officer. I didn't even know about that. So, after I see these charges, whatever, I'm like, okay, I'm going to take my daughter and I'm going to go do something with her today. Like, I obviously don't have to work. And so I tell her, hey, we're going to have a fun day. We're going to go to the park because this is still summertime. We're going to go to the park. We're going to go to Target. We're going to go eat pizza. Name off everything that she loves, right? And just like try to entice her to go out and
sounds amazing.
Distract ourselves. Yeah. And while we're in the car, I get 2 phone calls, one of which is my friend who works for maintenance for this place, okay? So his name is, we're not going to talk about it, but like he called me and was like, I saw Ty beat the shit out of a police officer. And I'm like, what? I'm like, how do you know? And they tell me, he's like, oh no, they had their weapons drawn at him. And he did not care. He grabbed the officer's gun and beat the shit out of an officer. Yeah. Yeah. And this person,
So this wasn't resisting arrest.
This was like he tried to kill a police officer. Like he beat the living crap out of this dude.
I'm honestly surprised he made it out of that
he shouldn't have.
Alive. Behaving that way.
He shouldn't have. Well, that's another story.
Correct.
He shouldn't have. And that's honestly what the maintenance man said too. He was like, if he looked like me, he would be dead. So
he's probably not wrong.
He's not wrong. And so, I mean, he's telling me this. He's relaying this information to me. He's like, I didn't even know it was Ty at first. He looked like crazy. He looked not even like himself. I didn't even realize it was him. But I like was trying to help the officer. And then I realized it was Ty because he knew us. He was over, the maintenance guy. He was over here a lot. Super cool, younger dude. We really liked it. So he's telling me this story. And I'm like, I don't even know who to talk to. At this point, I don't even know who the lead investigator is. Like, they haven't called me. Nothing happened.
Right.
This is probably around 9 a.m. And I'm like, okay, I'm getting my coffee. And then I'm booking it towards Target, right? Because I'm like, now more than ever, I need retail therapy, right?
This is an emergency Target visit.
Literally. So now more than ever, I need that retail therapy. So I'm racing to Target, right? I get a phone call. I'm like, please, God, don't let it be as bad as the first one. Get a phone call. Oh, it's worse because it's the lead investigator calling me. She's like, hey, Jordan. And I'm like, hey.
Hey, girl.
What's going on? Literally, what's going on? Tell me right now. And
no, literally.
And so she's telling me, all the details. I mean, not all of them, but she's telling me details that just made me want to like not go on with my day.
Oh my gosh.
And by the end of the call, she says, so I really would appreciate it if you took your daughter down to insert hospital here to get a forensic exam. And I'm like, what? So I'm like, okay, because I'm trying at this point to just do whatever they need me to do, because I'm cooperating.
Of course.
I don't know anything.
Right.
I'll help you do whatever you need to do. That's fine. So, but I was really sad because I was like, oh my God, I was going to have this like fun day with her, but okay, maybe it won't take that long.
Right.
Wrong. It took so long. We went down there and they have a specific team who does this. And that specific team like wasn't even in the building. So we had to wait like multiple hours for the specific team to come in. Then the specific team comes in, and I don't even know what, they have to talk to me. And then they're doing all these like other kinds of tests before they do like their whole thing. Just making sure she's fine. But the whole entire time, my daughter, is freaking out. Like screaming, telling them to get away from her, leave me alone, help mommy. All of the things that just destroy you as a mom to hear. And you can't do anything. So then they tell me like, hey, like your CPS worker's gonna come. And I'm like, oh God. Like I've seen this in the movies. So CPS shows up.
Oh, that was terrifying.
Yeah. I remember in that moment, I told him, okay, I looked at him and I was like, hi, I'm Jordan. I'm terrified that you're going to take away my baby. I like looked him in the eyes. My CPS worker was the sweetest man. And I know that is not how it goes for everybody. God. Far from it.
Right.
But he was like, hey, it's okay. I'm just gonna come see how you guys like interact here at the hospital. And then, we'll chat some more in a second. And I'm like, okay, fine. So I'm like in there, I'm comforting her, but I'm feeling some type of way. I'm feeling like it wasn't performative, but it felt, because he was watching, it felt performative almost. But I wasn't, I'm taking care of my daughter. Well, when someone's watching you like that.
But you're under this like scrutiny.
Yeah, it makes you feel weird. And then you're like, I don't know what to do. It's odd. But thankfully, I talked to him again and he tells me, he's like, hey, I can tell that you are your daughter's, safe place. She really, trusts you, whatever. So he's like, gives me his card, we're going to set up some home visit. And I'm like, okay, great. So that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, but it was still horrifying, right? No matter how good of a parent you are, you don't want CPS hanging out. We were there for 12 hours. I end up going home and I try to talk to Ty's parents again. And I'm like, okay, it's been a few days and you guys are giving me nothing. Nothing. And I wasn't talking about monetary. Like, call me. Ask how she's doing. Like, do anything.
At the least?
At minimum. They tell me, and it's super weird. And at the time, I didn't understand why they were doing it, but now I do. They told me that we were going to have a text conversation. We were going to have a text conversation.
The people who hate texting.
Yeah, at a specific point in time, we're going to have a text conversation. Is that okay? And I'm like, sure. And they're like, we have a few ideas of how we can help you. I'm like, great. The thing you have to know about Ty's parents is that the dad he's really fucking awful, but he is quiet about it and she is loud. She is loud about being awful. And it was her leading this conversation. She hates me. I was hoping it was going to be his dad, but of course his mom was never going to let that happen.
Of course not. Yeah.
So They're texting me. They're saying, we could like help with one car payment. Would you like that? And I'm like, so wait. I'm like, full stop. So wait. All of this happened. You're saying nothing about my daughter. You're saying you want to gift me one car payment. And this dude, like, I just lost an income, which fine.
Right.
Even that I would have taken, but unfortunately it was followed with, we're not responsible for other adults and their children.
Wait, what?
They're not responsible for other adults and their children.
Meaning?
Financially, anything like that. And I wasn't even asking for financial support. That's the thing. That's just what they were leading with. Because they don't know how to be any other type of human. They only know financial help and abuse. Because that's what they did. So Ty has 3 sisters. Okay? 3. His parents pay for every aspect of their lives. Every single aspect. He bought them houses. These people are wealthy. He bought them all houses. He buys them all whatever they want. He finances their moves, their trips, everything. He finances, okay? His dad. And so when they said, we don't take care of other adults and their children, now, keep in mind, I know this information. And they know I know. And so I said to them, I'm like, first off, wasn't even asking you for financial help. So thanks for the car payment gift. I don't need it. I don't need it. And also...
Yeah. No, thanks.
Also, yeah, no, thank you. And also, when you're talking about you don't care for other adults and their children, you're talking about you don't care for people like me and my child.
Which is their grandchild.
Yes. Yeah, but they don't, like, view it that way. After they say that part, I'm like, I called them out on that. I'm like, first off, you do too. Second, what you're saying is a dig. This is a dig. It's because I'm not like you that you don't want to help me. And I'd rather you just say that. And I'm like, so you don't want anything to do with your granddaughter, right? Because you have not asked how she's doing. You haven't mentioned her. Nothing. I'm like, so because I'm involved, you want nothing to do with her. Is that correct? And they said, oh, no, we are interested in adopting her.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What?
So I was already pissed at the already condescending, like, start to the conversation. And then they tried to threaten to adopt my daughter.
Have they had a relationship with...
Never met us.
Never met her. They've never met either of you. And when you say they didn't like you because you weren't like them, what does that mean exactly?
So they're super evangelical Christian. We've talked about Christ Church. They're very cult-like, I would say. And I've talked to a lot of people who have a lot more knowledge on it than I do. I wasn't aware. I think I always kind of felt like I would joke or like, haha, cult. But like, I don't think I was ever serious because I didn't ever really know the details. I just knew they were really strict religious, and I am not that way. And I really have an issue with organized religion because I do think it's like a cult. And I think that, you know, I'm not a Republican. That's a big one for them. And it's not just that I'm not a Christian, because I don't really know yet. I'm pretty sure I'm an atheist, but like I wasn't sure. I was raised Presbyterian, so I don't really know yet.
Right.
And so I would tell them, I'm like, hey, I think we like believe in some of the same things, but I think you believe in them differently than I do. It's not that we don't believe in some of the same things. It's that you believe them one way, and if I don't believe them that exact same way, you hate me. That's the catch.
Right. And it's a very extreme, specific way that they require you to believe.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
it's not like, oh, well, you believe in God or you believe in Jesus. It's like, no, you have to do X, Y, Z to this strictness and to this specification, or you're going straight to hell and you're taking your daughter with you.
Exactly. They like courted their daughters. Like they made them go through a courting process to get married. And they told me this. They said that his dad and mom confirmed, like, they made their daughters you know, they'd go on dates, but it had to be in groups or in public or whatever. And then, you know, they were
chaperoned.
Yeah, essentially. And then when the man wanted to marry one of the daughters, he had to come to Larry and be like, here's my finances, and Larry did this like deep background check and like trying to make sure this man is good enough, or his daughter, which, why even go to that trouble when you're going to pay for their whole lives anyways? It just seems like an extra step to show your dominance. It doesn't seem like I don't think he cared.
Well, it's because women are property.
Exactly.
And he's going to exchange his property. You might as well just trade her for like 24 goats at this point.
And so I'm hearing this, and I hear this from Ty first, and I'm like, oh, that's not good. And I'm explaining to him, and I'm like, don't we think that maybe this could be a lot of the reason why your sisters dislike me? I am literally everything they could never be. And I don't mean that in a way of like, I'm better than you. I mean it in a way of like, I got to go to public school. I get to wear what I want to wear. I get to decide what I believe. I get to decide what I do with my life. No path is chosen for me. It's me, and I get to be me. And they don't get to do that. Right. So I think a lot of it is also a jealousy component with his sisters. And his sisters are beautiful, talented. Those Stevenson kids, talented, gorgeous, like humans. But oh my God, something is mentally so wrong with all of them. All of them. And it's just, I don't know. So that's really like the background of his parents and me. I tried to have a relationship with them. I tried so hard. I wanted them to know my daughter. I invited them to come out and see it with us multiple times. It's like, hey, I would love it. I think that you guys might, you know, take a better liking to me if you met me face to face, because I'm a very bubbly person. I'm going to be very bubbly. I'm going to, you know, cater to your every need. Like, if you're staying at my house, I'm going to make 3 meals from scratch. Like, you know, I'm very, that's just how I am. And so I actually pride myself on being a likable person, but you know where part of that came from? Is bartending for so many years. You have to like build a persona.
Same. Yes. You know how to turn that on.
Yep.
I can be hospitable AF when I need to be.
Exactly. And so I was like, if they come here, you know, they'll love me. The issue was they weren't trying to come here. They're not trying to even be so much in the same room as me. They don't want to speak to me. All of my requests,
they don't have a desire to get to know you or like you or understand, or even their granddaughter for that matter. Like there's no effort because there's no desire.
And I very much so understood, and this was a boundary I'd set. I mean, even with Ty, was like, hey, they can't have access to her and treat me like crap. That's not appropriate.
Correct.
It's not appropriate. So, like, I want to build this relationship with them, and I'm really willing, because I'm not the one. They can have their beliefs, and I can disagree with them. I still want the relationship with them. That's not reciprocated. They can't do that. If I'm not them, then I'm shit. And there's no in between. And so I remember one specific conversation I had with his mom. It was supposed to be just a conversation of her getting to know me, right? And so I was telling her, I'm like, yeah, like, I grew up this way. My mom and dad are like this, though. So I really did you know. And my life story is similar to this whole thing. It's about overcoming traumas. I'm telling her, like, parts of my life story. And somehow it turned into a God conversation. Because it always does.
Shocking.
Yeah, it always turns into a God conversation. Yeah. And I have told her at this point multiple times, like, hey, I just don't think we should talk about it, because I think that, like, it makes you upset that I disagree, and I don't want to make you upset. So I think we should just not talk about it. Right. No, they continue to bring it up anyways. Every time. They make me think that, you know, we're working towards... We're laying down some groundwork. Like, they're learning about me, but then all of a sudden it's a God thing, and they hate me again. And, you know, just ask me about the Bible.
So if their son was in a relationship with you and had a child with you, that leads me to believe he didn't believe the exact same that they did, right?
No.
So why is it
a me thing? Like,
exactly?
And I mean,
why would they not take that up with their son?
And I think they did. I think they did, but here's how they did it. So, like, when I was pregnant, you know, and we waited to tell them. We were like, this is not going to be a fun combo. We just sent them, like, an email.
Because you guys weren't married?
Exactly. We just sent them, like, an email. It was like a whole, well, it was like a bulletin that we, like, made with, like, the, what are they called? Like, sonograms? Like, with the sonogram or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
We just mailed that or emailed that. And the response to that was pretty awful. Bittersweet Sin is what they called my daughter.
I'm sorry,
They called her a bittersweet sin. Yeah.
I'm gonna need a moment.
Yeah. How could he be with such a, and this, I love that they said this to him. They called me a perverse woman because I believed in things that they didn't believe in. Like, I don't know, just human rights. Honestly, to just sum it up, I believe in human rights. And they do not. And so I'm a perverse.
How dare you perverse woman.
Yeah, I'm a perverse woman. And so I just think it's really ironic that they were calling me that. And then they've got some, like, weird stuff going on in their family. They would send him emails. And this is when I was, like, 6 months pregnant. Being like, we'll give you X amount of dollars to just, like, leave her.
That's what Jesus would want.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Yeah. I don't know.
But, you know, not to get too much into the Christchurch thing, but I know you and I spoke on it before.
Mm-hmm.
There's such a history there with always protecting abusers and always defending them and victim blaming.
Yeah.
And that clearly goes beyond the pastor himself and just the main congregation. Like, it's such a big piece in all of the various layers within the church, the school, the curriculum, the publishing company. Like, it just has its little slimy hands in every single thing that organization touches.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, that trickled down to you and your daughter too, because they're like, didn't you? I think you had mentioned in one of your videos they even tried, or they were talking about bailing him out of jail.
Yeah.
Even after all of this happened.
Yeah, they did do that. So I get a call from him, and it was a 1-minute free phone call. And this is the first time I had spoken to him since that morning when I left for work, right? So I answered.
And how long after that day did you get this phone call?
I want to say it was like a couple weeks. A couple weeks later, I get this call, and he says, I'm going to get out soon. I'm coming to help you. And I'm like, what? So he ends up telling me that his parents are bailing him out, and they're looking for a lawyer, or, you know, whatever order that was in. They're going to look for a lawyer and bail him out. And so this is a 1-minute call. It ends. He tells me that. He tells me he's going to get out. He knows I need help. He's going to come help me. His parents are going to bail him out. They're getting him a lawyer. Those things, 1 minute, and then call ends. So I get off the phone, and I'm like, I don't know what just happened, but I'm panicking. I mean, and this was a couple weeks after I had really taken to TikTok too. So my first TikTok video, that was within, so when I got back from my boss's house that Thursday, and I had that conversation about, you know, them trying to adopt my daughter, that's what full sent me. That whole conversation, like that beginning part, and then I was already mad, and then the threatening to adopt my daughter thing. That's what full sent me into a panic. And at this point, I had already had a meeting with these victims advocates. I think it was the first meeting I had with them. They had nothing for me. Call social services. Like, okay. So I knew I was alone, and I knew my parent, or well, I don't want to say my parents. My dad has passed away. He passed away in March.
Oh,
yeah. Wow. So it was my parents. It was my mom. It was my mom and my brother and my sisters. I knew they weren't going to support me. I knew now that his parents weren't going to support me. And I just spiraled and lost it. I was mad. I was disgusted. I was not only mad for myself, but I was mad for my daughter. She had been through all of this. And no one of her extended family members cares more about her than they do about themselves. And that makes me angry for her, and also just devastated that I had a child and this is what her experience is, because this is not what her cousin's experience is. Her cousins, my daughter's cousins, have family and support. My sister's kids have that family and support. They had it from my dad before my dad passed. They had it from my mom, because there's always been this standard with my family. I am the smack in the middle child. I've always been the one who is loud and has, they call it a deep-seated need for justice. They kept telling me, the world is just and not everything is just. And so I think that they were annoyed with that, but that's always how I was. And so my daughter doesn't get any of that support, even though her cousins do. And she's going to see that. She's going to see that someday. And I'm going to have to explain that someday.
Of course.
I'm going to have to explain.
And it's enormously unfair.
The amount of things that I'm going to have to explain to my daughter. The amount of evil my daughter is going to see in the world before, way before I just found out how much evil is in the world when he got arrested. Only can hope that she will not become jaded or bitter or, I don't want her to view people as what our family happens to be. Our family's gross.
Right.
People are not all like them. There is good people.
Right.
And I do hope that she does see that, especially from, the outpour of love that I've received on TikTok, but, her as well. I hope that when she does come to see all of these injustices and all this evil in the world, I hope that she also sees everything positive that came out of it. I really do.
I think she will, because of who she has as her mother.
Thank you.
You're setting that for her right now. You're laying the groundwork for that through arguably the worst thing a mother could ever experience or go through or have to navigate, especially alone, especially when your baby's so young, and just all of these challenges that you're facing, and to still be able to approach it from that angle and not be like, F the world. You're wanting to maintain a healthy mindset for your daughter towards the world and not make her bitter and negative, but still understanding hey, this experience happened to you and it's very real and it's valid. Yeah. But this isn't all there is to life. Yeah. There are good people out here that care about us as human beings and that will advocate for us. And the way that you're advocating for her is just what every child deserves, but very few children experience and have. So she's, I want to say, very fortunate to have you as a mother, despite the circumstances.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It doesn't always feel that way.
I know it doesn't.
Yeah. I think another important thing that I want to show her is that, have you heard the saying, and it's if you can't find the light, be one, or it's something like that. Mm-hmm. And I think that what I'm also trying to do with all of this is okay, if you can't find help, if you can't find support, you can't find advocacy, be that. And that's what I'm trying to be. Unfortunately, my TikTok commenters, the mean ones, they don't think I'm doing it fast enough. They really expect me to be mid-crisis and just dedicate the rest of my life to advocacy. And I'm I'm in therapy, I've got court dates, I've got all of this stuff, meetings up the yang. And I have so much stuff going on. And You know, when the dust settles, obviously, I would absolutely love to continue on in some type of advocacy work.
God's sake.
Yeah.
Like, cut her some freaking slack.
Yeah.
This would be a terrible, awful, incredibly difficult situation to navigate if you had enormous support from both sides of the family and the community and were financially, like, taken care of. But guess what, guy? Like, you don't have any, you haven't had any of that.
I can barely sleep.
No, you don't. It's not your responsibility. Exactly. That's not your responsibility. The pressure that's being put on you is insane.
Yeah, there is a lot of pressure that comes with, you know, amassing. I mean, I don't have a huge following in comparison, but I have amassed quite a large following in such a short period of time. And I think that the pressure that comes from that I got a comment the other day and it's like, use all your donations, give them to everybody else. I'm like, what? Like, why? I'm like,
I'm sorry.
Yeah. She's like, use it to help other people. I'm like, I can't even help myself. I can't. That's the thing is like, I'm at the tail end of this.
It's been like, what, 6 months?
Yeah, not even. And so I'm at the tail end of this. I'm going back to work. I'm so happy. Everything's like starting to like fall back into place, right? We're getting a new normal. But at the same time, I'm not there yet. It's going to take a long time. He's not, you know, been tried. He is not, there's so much we still have to go through. And I think that it's not only fair, but like, honestly, for the good of everyone, if I'm not trying to be an advocate and save other people, well, I can barely hold my head above water, you know?
Correct.
What kind of help would I need?
Like,
I'm not good help already. I can barely text my friends back.
Okay, same. And I'm not even going through what you're going through.
I feel so bad. It's always like a week and I'm like, hey.
No, I know. I'm like, y'all probably hate me. I feel like I start every text that way. Like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I forgot.
Too.
Oh my God, you probably hate me.
Yep.
Like, it's never intentional.
Never.
But no, that's an insane expectation to put on someone going through any type of trauma. There's like victim blaming, and then there's I was making notes on it for a different case I'm covering. So I was working on that yesterday, but it's exactly the same, where it's like someone goes through something really terrible and shitty and is the victim.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's observers of that who want to shift all of the responsibility on the victim for advocating, for helping other people, for spreading awareness, for rescuing themselves. Like, there's all of these expectations on victims that should never be there in the first place. Like, we're supposed to be able to process things at the very fucking least. And you're still trying to be a good, like, a present mother at the same time. And we cannot be good parents to our kids without taking care of our own, like, emotional health and mental health, before taking care of our children. So,
and I think people, and I 100% agree with you, I think people underestimate the amount of trauma I've been through as well. This past year, 2023, was the most traumatic year of my life. I had multiple traumas happen within the first 3 months. You know, I had a massive trauma in February, and then my dad passed away, and I'm like, full disclosure, he was in a mountain biking accident. He was missing for 24 hours. Yeah, there were multiple helicopters, drones,
oh my God,
search and rescue. 6 search and rescue parties went out to look for my dad. It was negative some degrees in Montana, tons of snow. I knew my dad was dead. But I was like waiting. I was waiting. We held on to some sort of hope. This was a whole ordeal.
Oh my God.
This was in March. And this was March. It hasn't been a year. It was March 4th, technically, that he died. But I got a text March 5th from my mom, who I wasn't speaking to at the time, who was like, I can't find your dad. And so it was like, okay. I mean, this, like, maybe he...
What?
I mean, maybe he, like, went out and just, like, forgot to, like, tell you, because it was, like, morning and it was a weekend. So I'm like, maybe he just, like, is out, like, running an errand. Like, and she's like, no, I don't think he came home last night. I'm like, where did he go? And she's like, he went for a bike ride. And I'm like, He went for a bike ride in the sub-zero temps. And this is actually what my dad did do. My dad was a trials bike rider. He did all of the like competitions when I was like growing up. I grew up with all the trophies and everything. We're like, you're gonna die up there, man. And he did. So
well,
yep.
You called that one.
Yeah, I know. And like,
holy shit.
And like that happens, right?
I mean, it's not funny, but
no, it is. It happens.
Right.
It happens, and less than what is it? 3 months? No, 4 months later, 4 or 5 months later, then this happens.
Right.
This whole thing with Ty, and it's like I don't think you could understand what it was for me to exist during those first 8 months of 2023. I did everything I could to not feel the loss of my dad. Everything I could. I buried myself in work. I was, oh my God, I just, whatever I could do to not deal with it, I did it. And so there was so much suppressed grief, and even more so from my family, because of course there has to be this massive family argument the night before my dad's memorial. But of course, because it's a dysfunctional family.
Of course.
And so I'm reeling from this. I'm grieving, honestly, my whole family. I'm feeling extremely isolated. My dad died. My family's isolating me. And I just can't process any of it because I'm also a mom who works 2 jobs. And then I have Ty, who literally does next to nothing. And so we're arguing all the time because he doesn't help out. And then to go to work one day like you would any other day, and then have a trauma of, like you've said, this magnitude happen when I haven't even processed all this other trauma that's pretty also serious. It's like,
yeah,
I think the expectation of me and my reactions and my responses from the public is pretty off.
And not to mention, this really gets me riled up, and it always has, and I go off on it in person and online about it. But it shouldn't take knowing someone's full story, knowing every trauma that has ever happened to somebody and every detail of every trauma, to have empathy and compassion for another human being going through something, or to be able to hold space for that person to process or to speak out about their experience without inserting yourself into it. Someone should be able to say, hey, I went through something terrible and here's my experience. And we say, that's valid. I hear you. And I'm glad you can, I'm here for you to say what you need to say and to heal how you need to heal. But instead we're like, I need to know more about that. Like it's insane.
Yeah. It was a whole lot of picking apart, and especially that first video. Like, you think if I was in my right mind, I would have framed a lot of the things I said in that first video the way I did? Probably not. I think that when I'm upset, I tend to everything is something. Like, I couldn't
spiral.
Yeah, I couldn't keep anything straight. I'm like, oh, this, and then there's this, and then there's, and I'm panicking, and I'm very much so somebody who gets riled up when I'm telling the story. Like, I'm very animated. Yeah. That's how I am. And so when I'm telling that story in my first video, I'm on TikTok and I'm mad. I'm already mad. And then, I'm in shock still because this was a matter of days after this happened, a week probably. That I understand that TikTok video doesn't come out like the perfect victim per se, because how? And people really said to me something like, oh, you care about your birthday right now? Or oh, your reaction's so off. Something's wrong with you. And it's I posted proof. Everything that you need for proof is on my TikTok. The search warrant, the charges, his mugshot.
Not that you owe it to anybody.
No, not that I owe it to anybody, but
it was there.
Just hey, I'm asking for financial support. Here's the proof that I'm actually going through this and I'm not a scammer, right? Still, even with proof plastered everywhere, I get comments day in and day out. You're lying. You're a manipulator. What are you doing? This isn't about you. And it's like, how am I lying? Like, it could take you 5 seconds to figure out that I'm not lying. But instead, you look so ridiculous. Telling a victim, like,
yeah,
who has proof plastered is not a liar. And just, yeah, that's been tough for me.
No, I thought your original video, I honestly thought you handled that better than I for sure would, but most people. But I think it's palpable in that video, your anger and your, like, the heartbreak of the situation and the injustice of it. Like, to me, all of that is conveyed. Like, I can literally see it in your face and in your eyes. Like, that's genuine.
Yeah.
So and like, not that it's even my job.
No, I know, but I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like, I think that, and I've talked to Katie about this quite a bit, 'cause everything I do, I ask Katie for approval for. I'm like, hey, do you think, because she knows how to do this. I am not a social media girl. I don't know how to do it. And I certainly don't know how to deal with any sense of virality. And so when that video started getting more attention, I was like, so these people are saying these things. And she's like, block and delete, block, delete, block, delete, everyone. She's like, if you allow any comments to even stay up, other haters see it and are like, oh, I have the space to, other people think this too. And they feed off of each other. Yeah. She's like, delete, delete, delete. And so 100%. Since then, I stay pretty good about it sometimes. And some of my TikToks you've seen are like some snarky, sassy videos, which I'm gonna continue doing. Like, I have another one teed up and ready to post today.
No, it's can't wait. Yeah. And everybody processes it differently. Like, for me, I am very sassy and always have snapbacks, especially in person. Yep. But for me, online, there's so much. I have received so much hate telling my own, like, cult story. Yeah. No matter, like, I posted videos about, like, my really shitty homeschool experience and the abuse that I experienced growing up. And no matter what, there's so many hateful people who invalidate your real life experience that they were not there for.
Yeah.
And I started, like, would do response videos, but it's too draining for me. And I don't get, like, I feel like I lose energy over it. But I always admire people like you who assert themselves in that way, because I feel like it needs to be done. So I low-key like to see other creators doing.
Yeah, I usually will, take that comment, and instead of really internalizing it, I normally just put it in my friend's group chat. I don't want to give any of these people that just, and what it is it's a commit to misunderstanding. They're committed to misunderstanding your truth, to misunderstanding your story. They're committed to their dysfunction. And that's what it is. I don't want to give them a platform.
Well, I was going to ask how the public, how my audience can support you in the best way.
I would say, I obviously appreciate all continued donations. I appreciate it. I'm a single mom regardless. Other than that, I really, really appreciate the emotional support. If anybody wants to follow me on TikTok, that's going to be where I'm going to be putting out the most updates. Like I said, there's still so much to go. And so if anybody wants to continue to follow along with my story, that honestly helps me a lot. It helps me a lot to just know that I have people I can talk to, people who care. And I think that's all I need, really.
If you would like to support Jordan and her daughter as they navigate life after something this horrific, it would mean a lot to me personally if you would go and help her out however you can. And if you would like to share your own story here, you can send me an email at kendraleebryan@gmail.com.